Something that I always love seeing people in the Thomas and Friends fandom and community is making their own customs related to the franchise. Whether it be customs related to characters from the show and the books, even some people have done stuff related to All and Just Go, or making the characters look more realistic, or maybe even making more original characters, or even characters from different TV shows, movies, or video games, or even something that's just of their own creation. And they can use this as an opportunity to create their own stories, or their own series, or their own universe. And it honestly shows just how dedicated Thomas fans are, and shows just how much they still love the franchise, even for whatever direction it's been put through. And so, starting from the end of 2024 to the beginning of this year, I decided to go into custom modeling. And before I start evaluating how I made this model, let me just say that this is the first time I've made a custom engine, and that any given criticism shall be valid. Also, I'm sorry if I haven't really been as active this year to those who watch my channel. I've been really busy with preparing for this big vacation my family and I have been planning for months, and it kind of made me struggle to pump out any new videos or content. Right then, let's get started. So, to actually make a custom of Lady, I needed to figure out how to make it and what materials I needed. And this is all down to the fact that unlike most characters of the franchise, Lady is not based on anything that's from real life. So making a custom of her was going to be a bit of a challenge. First things first, I looked at how other people make their own customs of Lady to get an idea. From what I've looked at throughout the years of being on YouTube, fans make a custom model of Lady in terms of HO by modifying the Erdl diecast Lady to run on HO scale track using the chassis of a Bachmann Percy or Bill and Ben, or even a Hornby Pug, whereas a few others make a custom of Lady using Hornby's 101 class tank by simply just repainting it and adding details such as a face and headlamps. And in the end, I decided to go with that option for a custom. I opened up eBay and found a spare chassis and a spare body shell and bought those one by one. And then, after a few weeks, I also started finding some paint. I eventually came across some model color paints made by Vallejo. These are apparently special acrylic paints for modeling kits and other stuff. I waited till the time was right and bought all the necessary paints I needed. The paints I bought were a light gold gray for the undercoat, a violet red for the main body, pistons, and wheels, a dark purple for the footplate and cab, and then, of course, gold pink for, well, the rest of the engine. Although, before buying all these paints, originally I had bought Vallejo Magenta on the last week of December, mostly because Lady is meant to be magenta, as red and violet, when mixed together, make magenta. And I remember seeing this type of color had been used for Andrew Liago's custom, so I decided to use that. Long after I bought the paint, I tested on the chassis, and after a while, I thought the color looked nice, but eventually I came to the conclusion it was just too pink and too bright. So I decided to ditch that color and instead go with the violet red. And thus, the painting began. First things first was painting on the gray for the undercoat for the main body shell. And before painting the undercoat, the first thing to do was masking up some parts of the body like the coal bunker and dome. Originally, when masking up the body, I also chose to mask up the buffers as well, but I quickly chose to paint those too. And then once that was all dry, masked up parts such as the smoke box and started applying the violet red to the main body, And then, once that was dry, I masked off my plate and boiler and applied the gold on the smoke box, funnel, the buffers, handrails, and even the side rods and the chassis. And then once that was all dry, I started applying the dark purple to the roof and the footplate. And with that, the painting process was finally done. There are some spots I want to fix up in the future, but I think it'll do for now. Now all that was left was to start adding more details like the face, the lining, the name written on the sides, and of course her headlamps. For Lady's face, I originally had bought a capsule Playdoll Lady because I liked the face on it, and I felt it would be the perfect face as it looked almost accurate to the real thing. However, once the toy finally arrived, measurements proved that the face was just too small. And not to mention, the face wouldn't fit because I didn't have anything to shave down the smokebox dart and handrails at the time. And before that, I also fiddled around and tried painting some lining onto Lady's side tanks, but me, still being new to customs, was having a bit of trouble with that. So, I found an old hand file, used it to shave off the handrails, and then repainted back the side tanks. And then, I continued painting on the lining for the tanks and the bunker, and also a bit of the lining for the boiler and pistons. And I even chose to paint the middle of the wheels, and eventually I chose to paint the cab. Already she was starting to look complete. With some last few details I still need to complete this custom. So as I said before, the face on the capsule Playroll Lady was just too small to fit in the smoke box. So I continued to search for other options for both a face and headlamps. Particularly what I was trying to potentially see if I could get was a Bandai text lady because, like the Erda one, it is also pretty detailed and accurate to looking just like Lady. And even a few people out there have actually used this toy for their own customs. But it is an item that is extremely rare. And whenever it comes up, it can go for quite a penny. So eventually I came to the next best option. A rather used Bandai Nakayoshi Lady, which had a few parts missing like buffers and pistons, and so I decided to use that. Once it finally arrived, I took off the face and the headlamps, repainted the headlamps to the same gold as the rest of Lady's body, sanded down the smokebox dart, repainted the smokebox, and then glued on the face and the headlamps to the bottle. With only 2 things left to do, one of which was to keep the paint from wearing off after a while. During my vacation, I bought a bottle of matte varnish and used a tiny paintbrush to brush on a nice little coating all over the model. Last thing to do was to add her name, which I basically just printed out and then glued onto the sides. And that's it. That is my Lady custom fully complete, and I'm so glad with how this custom turned out. I admit though, it's not the best custom, as frankly it's a very simple custom that wouldn't have taken me less than 5 to 6 months to make, and frankly there are some things I'd like to improve with it in the future. The lighting is definitely something I like to improve, and the chassis itself is very old, and frankly she doesn't run that well, and at times it'll need a good cleaning. But again, I'm still very happy with how this turned out, and in the future, I'm hoping to continue making more customs like this, with my next 2 characters being set on Arthur and Harvey. But I'd also like to see what you guys would like for me to do next. And if you guys have any ideas for future customs, be sure to leave a comment down below.
There appears a sign that points just round the bend to a place you'll